Today we have Dr. Ashok Dalwai with us. He is the chairman of the Committee on Doubling the Farmer Income. He is an IAS officer, very senior bureaucrat of 1984 batch, and at the same time PhD in agriculture from Karnataka. And in that sense, we have a double advantage today. On one hand, he is a bureaucrat. On the other, he is an expert in agriculture. Dr. Ashok Dalwai, on behalf of IIPA and on my own behalf, I welcome you to this session. India has moved from net food importing country to self-sufficiency and then to net food exporting country after feeding 1.37 billion people of the country. It is a great and formidable achievement. Yet the farmers' income have not risen commensurately. What do you think, according to your understanding, and you have studied very deeply on the farmer issue, why the farmers' income have not risen as expected?
Thank you very much. I must thank you personally and also the director of the prestigious Indian Institute of Public Administration, which is in service of our public service of the nation, to have given me this opportunity to be with you and through you to be talking to the aspiring civil servants. And agriculture is the evergreen subject. It has been the foundation of our civilization. It has seen us through these 12,000 years of settled civilization, and it will be an important domain for all times to come. It is said that there is not a single person on earth who is somehow not concerned with agriculture. Either you are a producer or you are a consumer. So nobody can do without agriculture, because this particular sector, which is called as primary economic sector, produces food for the human consumption. It also produces fodder for the animals, and more importantly, it provides jobs and therefore incomes to the farmers and adds to the wealth of the nation. It is therefore very critical, and all of us must remember it all the time. And the question that you have raised, which is very, very important and also very sensitive, as to why agriculture in India, notwithstanding its stupendous growth since 1947, to have made India one of the superpowers in the agriculture sector globally, has not been able to satisfy the farmers in terms of their average income. It is not the issue of satisfying the farmers. The issue is that nation itself does not feel happy that our farmers are not able to generate enough income so that they can live a dignified life. The reasons are many, but in principle, to begin, I can only say that we have looked at agriculture so far as a generator of food in order to meet the food security of the country and its growing population. In this context and with respect to this particular mandate, India's agriculture has done a great job, as borne out by the fact that in 1951, when we launched the first 5-year plan, we produced 50 million tons of food grains. Today, we are producing 309 million tons as per the data for the year 2020-21. Likewise, our fruits and vegetables, which were at 20 million tons in 1951, has now registered an all-time high of 336 million tons. Look at milk production. It has gone up 10 times to now 205 million tons. Likewise, the meat, the fish, and other agriculture produce have all seen an upward rise over these last 75 years. So as we celebrate the 75th year of India's independence, we have every reason to laud ourselves and give all the credit to three people, or three stakeholders importantly. First one is our scientists who have given us the new technology. The second one is the policy framework of the governments both at the national level and the state level, which has enabled the extension of the technology to the level of the farmers. And third most important is the farmers themselves, who are spread across the length and breadth of this country, and notwithstanding all the challenges that they face with regards to their education, with regards to technology, with regards to disbursement, with regards to financial weaknesses, they have adopted the new technology and management practices and produced such huge mountains of food for us. And if they have not benefited, it means that we have not adopted an agricultural business approach to the system of production. We have looked at production but not looked at how to convert that production into monetary terms, and that therefore entails the new challenge and the new necessity of adopting what is called an agri-business model, where the farmer becomes the farm entrepreneur, and as an enterprise he starts practicing it on the principles of basic business. And that's, I think, the new challenge, and that's the new approach that Government of India is promoting today.
This agri-business development is very key to the success of the agriculture in general and the farmers' welfare in particular. Given the agriculture census 2015-16 data, about 86% of farmers are marginal and small. And when some crisis happens, then they are the ones who take a hit very hard because their propensity to bear those losses is very low. Is there anything the government has done especially for farmers, the small and marginal ones?
Yes, you are absolutely right that India's agriculture structure is largely defined by the dominant section of the small and marginal farmers. Of the 141 million hectares, which has now come down to 140 million hectares because of diversion of a part of agriculture for non-agriculture sector over the last few years, we have mostly small and marginal farms. In fact, 86%, as you rightly said, are small and marginal farms. We have nearly 121 million farm households. So 86% of these farm households are small and marginal farmers. Now, when we have these kind of small size and further fragmented farms in our country, the challenge of production efficiently becomes that much more difficult. However, one thing we must remember, it is not that the small farms are not efficient in terms of production. On the contrary, many research studies show that the productivity and therefore the proportionate volume of production is much higher in case of small and marginal farmers compared to the large farmers. The reason is obvious. It is the personal management that the small and marginal farmer brings to his farming. However, these farmers still do not make a profit on account of the fact that the total volume of business is very small. In case of a small farm which is 2.5 acres or above, and in the case of a marginal farm which is 2.5 acres and less, the volume of business cannot be very high. When we don't have volume of business, that means that we are not able to bring the scales of economy to operate at these levels. And it implies that whether it is input management or output management, the cost of production at the input management stage and the cost of transaction at the output management stage become more irrational compared to the farmers who are practicing large farming. It is therefore natural that these farmers will not be able to withstand the vagaries of monsoons or any other kind of contingency that may arise either at the production level or at the post-production level. In India as elsewhere, agriculture is always risk prone because it is dependent on nature. And then post-production, there is always a price fluctuation because agriculture by nature is a subject where you cannot control the supply. If you cannot control the supply, then you are not able to ensure stability of prices. Of course, there are many other factors relating to marketing that will come to later on. But I agree with you that the risks at the level of the small and marginal farmers, they have a greater negative impact compared to what they might impact the large farmers. We therefore need to have greater protection or greater buffer whereby we are able to help the small and marginal farmers to withstand both the production challenges and the price fluctuation challenges. Government has large number of initiatives for this. One of them, of course, is what is called a crop insurance scheme, so that the farmers who are able to buy the insurance cover by paying very small amounts of premium under the Pradhan Mantri Fasal Bima Yojana will be able to negotiate the production risks. Now, as regards the risk at the post-production stage, we have minimum support price system for a large number of commodities, which assures them that the farmers' produce will be bought by the government if the prices fall below MSP in the market. So we have minimum support price which is notified for Kharif and Rabi crops, and the basket includes 25 altogether in a year. And then at the same MSP, the procurement happens whenever the prices fall. So that is another risk negotiation instrument that government has given to the farmers. But more importantly, in order to bring scales of economy, we are now focusing on mobilizing the farmers into farmer producer organization. So when we bring farmers together, while ensuring that land ownership is not compromised, they are still able to manage their inputs and outputs more efficiently because the scales of economy automatically come into play. So these are some of the important initiatives. Of course, many initiatives, as we know in our country, we have a huge subsidy regime where there are input subsidies relating to fertilizers and seeds and pesticides and water and so on and so forth. There is a huge cafeteria of initiatives that both Government of India and the state governments as well offer to the farmers, not only just in cropping sector but also in livestock sector, in fishery sector, because agriculture is not just crop husbandry. Agriculture is a very wide domain and has several subsectors, including agronomic crops, horticultural crops, then the livestock sector, fisheries and aquaculture sector. And under each of these there are several subcomponents. Just to illustrate, horticulture itself has 6 subcomponents relating to fruits and vegetables, medicinal plants, herbal plants, plantation, flowers. So agriculture is as wide as the ocean, and considering that it is risky, governments have always come to stand by the farmers, and we need to do that for all times. Thank you.
Many agriculture economists have extensively written that farmer broadly needs 2 things: getting the prices right and getting the markets right. You talked about the getting the prices right through the instrument of minimum support price, where large number of commodity are under minimum support price domain. But what about farmers getting the prices right? And what is the role of ENAM? I know you had been instrumental in creating the ENAM and other things. So how is going to help the farmers?
Yes, that's one of the most critical thing today. As you began asking why farmers, despite good production, are not having good incomes, it obviously implies that we need to look at post-harvest management, where we need to convert the farmer's produce, more particularly the marketable surpluses, into appropriate value. So when we talk about this monetization, according to me there are 3 components that we should be addressing. First one is the agri-logistics, which means that we are able to connect the farm produce from the farm gate with the market where there is a demand for it. For this you need good agri-logistics. That includes good storage and good transportation, and it all has to be very seamless and efficient. And then the nature of this storage and transportation system will again depend upon the perishable nature of the commodity. For example, a perishable like fruit or vegetable or a milk will require cold storage systems. It will require reefer systems to transport, unlike a dry storage or a dry transport for non-perishable like a food grain. So once we have taken care of the agri-logistics so that the quality of the produce is not compromised as it is carried or conveyed from the farm gate to the place where it is required, there we also need to ensure efficiency of marketing. So markets are very, very important. So what we now need to do is to create large number of markets as close as possible to the farm gates, and also different nature of markets. We need first aggregation platforms, because as we already agreed, the farmers in our country are small and marginal. Therefore their marketable surpluses are small in nature, and they will not be able to afford high cost of transportation to a distant market. So if we have aggregation platforms at the village level or at the Gram Panchayat level within a approximate radius of about 5 to 6 kilometers, the farmers can carry them there. They can primarily process them, that means clean them, grade them, package them, aggregate them, and then get them ready to transport further to a wholesale market like an APMC. APMCs, Agriculture Produce Marketing Committees, set up by the state governments under the various Cooperative Act, are primarily primary wholesale markets. So if they need to connect with APMC, which are located at a distant place, then there has to be aggregation. We also need to have alternate markets. That means not just one APMC. There can be more than one APMC set up not just in government sector but also in the private sector. Or there can be other purchase centers like a warehouse or an exporter, a processor. So different natures of purchases, if made available, then there will be competition. And we need to connect one market with another market, and that's called market integration, so that the price differential between two APMCs is not more than the cost of transportation. That's called marketing efficiency. So we need to create efficient market structure in our country. Now, apart from agri-logistics and efficient marketing system, the third pillar of monetization is what's called processing facility. Because agriculture being seasonal in nature, the produce comes in one lot at the end of the season, and all of it is not consumed or consumable within a short period of 1 month or 2 months or 3 months. We need to store it for a longer period of time and then provide it to the consumers as per their demand. Since it involves storage, and since every grain or every fruit or any agriculture produce is alive, it will get spoiled if we do not store it properly, and therefore we also need to process it. So when we process it and change the character of that agriculture produce, it now becomes value added product.
Right.
And that can be stored for longer period of time. So therefore processing is as important as agri-logistics and marketing efficiency in order to transfer remunerative prices to the farmers. The other advantage of such processing is that it can then be conveyed to much more distant places. That means we are now moving from near range markets like a village or a taluk or a district or a state to a far range market that is beyond the state and even beyond the nation into the export market. So I feel, and it is well established, that if we want to transfer remunerative returns to the farmers on their marketable surpluses, we should be looking at these three pillars: agri-logistics, agriculture processing, which includes both food and non-food processing, and third, efficient marketing structure. And if these three are combined, then I'm sure the farmers will get better returns. And just to illustrate the importance of this, and for the benefit of our aspiring students, in the year 2015, a result of a study conducted by one of our ICAR institute called CIFET has come out. And this particular study shows that in the absence of good agri-logistics and in failing to connect the agriculture produce with the markets, our farmers lost rupees 93,000 crore worth of their value. Just imagine that almost 1 lakh crore worth of agriculture produce was lost only because we were not able to transport that to the right place of demand. So this is a waste of national wealth, this is a charge on the ecology, and obviously a loss to the farmers. So this substantiates the importance of agri-logistics. And then we allow this kind of a wastage, it also causes decomposition, and decomposition leads to emission of greenhouse gases, which then further worsens the climate change. So these are all linked to one another. So we must look at agriculture as an ecosystem and not compartmentalized in the manner of a silo.
No, agriculture, all of us know, is perishable, and then this shelf life of those products, most of them is very low, and therefore logistic, you raise very rightly, assumes important role. Now we linking this with the PM Gati Shakti. How do you think the PM Gati Shakti will help our agriculture sector in general and to those our small and marginal farmer in particular?
Yes, under this PM Gati Shakti, the focus is on strengthening of infrastructure. Now, over the last 20 years in particular, India's basic infrastructure has seen a good improvement. We have had several initiatives, right from the national highways to the state highways to the district roads and also the village roads. We have had programs specifically for each of these things. Like say for example, to connect the remote villages, there has been what is called PMGS5, Pradhan Mantri Gram Sadak Yojana. It connected the villages to the taluka place or the block center, and then thereafter it got integrated with the district roads. And now with our focus on improving the national network, after the initial success with the quadrilateral where India got connected from north to south and west to east. Now other national highways are coming up at great speed with great quality by adopting the global standards. So obviously when we have this kind of network, it provides the backbone required for transportation. Now along with this road infrastructure, we are also seeing improvements in the rail infrastructure and the air connectivity as also waterways. So when we talk about transport infrastructure, we should be looking at multilateral requirements: roads, rail, air and waterways. So India has now been focusing on all these four components, and within the water sector also developing a river-based transportation system. And overlaying on this basic infrastructure, the focus is on improving the transportation system, whether it is bringing in ethanol based transportation so that we are able to have efficiency, because as we all know, India does not produce enough petroleum products because we don't have those reserves in our country. We have very little of it, so we have to import, and imports are always very costly, and there is a very heavy charge on the national foreign exchange. So when we are able to increase a blend of the petroleum product with locally produced ethanol, first advantage is that our dependence on the imports will reduce. More importantly, we are also addressing the climate change issue, because fossil based resources like petroleum emit a large amount of greenhouse gases. So now India has got that capacity to increase the quantum of ethanol production, because we have large amount of sugarcane being produced, we have large quantities of other greens whether it is sorghum or corn or other kinds of agriculture produce, all of which can be utilized to produce ethanol. Now what India has done is, it has adopted two things. It is always creating a virtuous cycle. First is help the sugar factories to use their cane not only to produce sugar but also to produce ethanol, to produce electricity, so that now they become agricultural complexes. India does not require so much of sugar as is being produced. When you produce more sugar than required, prices will automatically fall. And the sugar factories will be under stress to pay the farmers, so farmers ultimately suffer. But when you allow the farmers now under the new amended sugar control order to convert sugarcane juice to produce ethanol directly, or use bee-heavy molasses to convert it into ethanol, the factories now produce larger quantities of ethanol, and then this is supplemented by the National Fuel Policy 2018. Under the fuel policy today, the automobile sector can use blended petroleum up to 20%. So one side we have a lot of sugar cane, we allow now ethanol to be produced, and then say this ethanol can be blended up to 20% of the petroleum product. So it is a win-win situation for everybody. As on date, we have reached up to 5%. That means we still have a large latitude to produce more of ethanol and then help the farmers, help the sugar factories, help the automobile sector, help the nation's foreign exchange and the ecology at large. And as we know, in Brazil, the blending has gone up to 50%. That means there is technology available for us to go still higher. So it's a win-win situation. When you have this kind of efficient road and rail and air etc. infrastructure combined with efficient transportation, it helps in evacuating the surpluses from all parts of the country to the demand centers. As I said, agriculture produce, whether it is crop or horticultural or livestock or poultry or fish, is a life even after it is harvested. So because it is a life, it is prone to decomposition, and once it decomposes, it becomes a waste. So the secret lies in transporting it quickly to a place where it is required and storing it in appropriate manner. For example, milk, it has a lifespan of 4 hours. You need to pasteurize it quickly so that the lifespan increases. You need to process it into milk powder so that it has further shelf life. So we need to deploy all these technologies and the management practices so that we increase the shelf life and reach out to the places and the people who demand it across the globe and not necessarily only within the country. Of course, always country will have the first priority, but once that is done, in the interest of the farmers, in the interest of the nation, we now need to get into global market.
Lastly, I would like you to give message for the young farmers and the young civil servant aspirant.
Thank you for giving me this privilege. I'm not too sure how relevant are my thoughts on this, but still I would like
They are very
to
important.
share some of my own mind on this. That you asked for two important segments of a society.
Yes.
One is the farmers, the youth farmers, and the other one is the aspiring civil servants. As far as the youth is concerned, youth is aspirational today. They have new hope, new confidence, new optimism that previous generations did not have, or at least my generation did not have. Today's generation is extremely confident of itself thanks to the information revolution and the exposure that they are having. And so they know that they are capable of creating their own enterprises. And according to me, agriculture is the oldest enterprise. When I said agriculture has been the foundation of the civilization began 12,000 years ago when we took to settled animal husbandry and settled crop husbandry. And since then, our agriculture has been producing food, fodder, feed for the various agro industries, creating jobs, and more importantly, or as importantly, giving us the cultural patterns, and these together have defined our civilization. But there have been certain challenges that we're experiencing today, that we now need to tell the farmers, where the youth have an important role to play, to adopt new technology, new business management principles, and practice agriculture as an agricultural enterprise, where they create jobs, they create incomes. And then our youth today is extremely tech savvy. They know how to handle technology, how to handle finances. They are amenable to new management practices. They are go-getters, and therefore they will be able to convert agriculture from a default choice of profession to one of adopted profession, and then as a business. And the message that I would like to give them is that in the 21st century, where emerging technologies are the byword, they are highly disruptive. So we need to know technology, whether it is artificial intelligence or the machine learning, sensors, remote sensing, and several other aspects related to geospatial technology. Simultaneously, these technologies are also labor substituting, which means that while the other sectors of the economy, like the industry and manufacturing sectors, grow rapidly, they may still not be able to create as many jobs as they should be creating. Therefore, we need to create more jobs in the agriculture sector. And agriculture sector can create more jobs provided it is able to reorient itself as not just a producer of food and fodder, but a producer of feedstock for the new industry, and that is a bioeconomy. That means we produce more of biomaterials, bioenzymes, biofuels, and all things that the modern civilization requires based on renewable forms of resources, which are all generated on the farms and in the forests. So I think our youth today has got that new opportunity to become the source of material for the new industrial society, new civilization, and thereby have a what is called a circular economy, a bioeconomy, and therefore generate the jobs that we need to create. And my personal opinion is that as we aim at $5 trillion economy and later on $30 economy by 2050, we should be aiming at least at 20% share from the agriculture within the larger economy. If that is happening, then our population, which is so much dependent on agriculture, will get a better per capita income. Growth is not enough by itself. Growth is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient condition. We need purchasing power. We need equitable distribution. Therefore, large section of the society which will continue to depend on agriculture will also need to have access to higher purchasing power. Therefore, the youth in agriculture must bear this in mind, and new technologies are available. And as regards these aspiring youngsters, boys and girls who want to get into civil services, I can only tell them that it is a right aspiration. Civil services will always remain the backbone of India's governance system. India constitutionally believes in democracy, and we are one of the most plural and the most robust democracy in the world. The people's representatives will always be there to govern this country, but they will require the aid and advice of the civil servants at the policy making stage. They'll require the civil servants at the implementation stage. So we need the best of people as civil servants. So I would appeal to the youngsters that yes, you are making a right choice, but then as you come in, be very sure the purpose for which you are coming. And the purpose is to serve the society. The government gives enough of salary, so you will be happy materially in terms of creature comforts. But what you need to give to the society will be honesty, professional integrity, the requirement to adhere to the rules and the laws that have been laid down by the parliament and the state legislature. We are here as civil servants to ensure that the society runs in sync or in accordance with the rules and various laws of the land. Simultaneously, of course, always keeping in mind the needs of the people. We cannot be just wooden bureaucrats. We need to be civil servants who are serving the society.
Sure.
And the third thing is that it is good that since 1979, Kothari Commission recommendations on the civil services came to be adopted by the government. The base of selection has broadened. Today, we have civil servants coming in from different backgrounds, that is from different disciplines, not just social sciences. It includes physical sciences, engineering sciences, medical sciences, agricultural sciences, literature. So there's a huge background. So it provides an equal opportunity to everybody, whatever discipline you've chosen for your collegiate education. And we are also seeing youngsters coming from rural areas, semi-urban areas, from different language backgrounds. So this is good because then India gets the best of people. After all, it is through competition. It is always through competition. So I would always appeal to everybody to put in your best, study well, study hard, and simultaneously try to acquire as much knowledge as possible. Because when you come in as a civil servant, then you should be well equipped with knowledge, information, and you are always open-minded.
Right.
And please remember that once you get in, it is not the end as most
It's a beginning.
of us think. It is only a
beginning.
Because the society is changing, and they say the pace at which the things are changing is shrinking. It is today changing at an interval of 7 to 8 years, and soon it will change every year and possibly mostly every month. So you need to be that fast in acquiring the new knowledge, new technologies all the time. So you need to remain young in mentally and also agile physically. Then only you can become a good civil servant. So don't come into civil service because you want to occupy some good positions. Come into civil service because it gives a window for you to serve
the nation
and the society at large.
So thank you, Dr. Ashok Dalwai, for a wide ranging of discussion on agriculture to the bureaucracy and farmers' welfare. You touched various aspects of farmers, and thank you very much.
Thank you very much.